My next guest is the former British Foreign Secretary, who's now CEO of the International Rescue Committee, which aids people affected by wars and natural disasters. He also topped a recent poll among those who had a favourite for the next leader of Britain's Labour Party. With me now, David Miliband. David, thank you very much for joining us.
Gerry, good to be with you.
Here at Davos, there's a lot of attention always on a lot of, or at least a lot of lip service, maybe I should say, is given to the plight of poorer people. This is very much seen as a gathering of the elite. What are you hearing this time? How much is actually being done to help the people, whether it's refugees or people affected by all kinds of blights around the world? What's actually being done? What are you expecting to get done out of after you come to a place like Davos?
I think we're seeing a number of the bigger companies really stepping up in a serious way, because what they see is retreat from governments from big global problems. Dealing with refugees is only one of them. And they feel that if corporates and NGOs don't step up and tackle those big problems, they're not going to get tackled, and that means more trouble for globalisation. I feel this year people really realise that the blessings of globalisation are going to be taken away if they're not spread more fairly. And obviously for the most vulnerable, who are the refugees, the victims of wars, that's a very pressing concern.
Let's talk about, if we may, the pressing issue that's on a lot of people's minds here, and certainly in Britain, Brexit. The Theresa May...
We're both refugees. Is that what you're suggesting from...
Exactly, we are. From very...
Quite.
Yes, that's right, not quite. We've done rather better than others, actually.
Exactly.
But there's Theresa May, the Prime Minister, lost her vote famously, of course, dramatically last week. We are now looking at more parliamentary procedures. I don't want to get into that. What should be done? Britain, March 29th, is scheduled to leave the EU, barring something remarkable. Right now, there doesn't look like there's going to be a deal, so Britain will leave the EU without a deal. What, in your view, should be done right now?
I think when you buy a house, you get the home inspection report, and then if the home inspection report says there's subsidence, you've got the option of whether or not to go ahead with the purchase. And so I think that there is a democratic case, as well as an economic and social case, for Britons to say, look, the Brexit we were promised at the time of the referendum is not on offer, and so we want to be able to affirm that choice or decide that we're not going to go ahead. And that case for a second referendum is not yet the majority view, either in the country or in Parliament, but it's stronger than it was a year ago, because there's shock in Britain, I think, as well as around the world, not just at the original vote, but how unspeakably badly the government have negotiated the process over the last 2 years.
People would agree they've handled it badly, but aren't you concerned about how divisive another referendum... The first referendum was incredibly divisive. If you have another one, and this time, say, it goes the other way, you're going to have, again, half the country that's going to say, hang on, we voted one way, we've been cheated.
That's a perfectly reasonable point. There's a real risk, but the country's divided now. And the truth is, we've only done the easy bit of the negotiations so far. Only the three issues of the outstanding debts, the Northern Irish issue and the citizens' rights issues. There's a whole swathe of economic, social, political affairs to be negotiated in the future. All of the difficult issues will return, and the country is going to be divided and sliced again and again and again, not just over the next 5 months, but over the next 5 to 10 years, as it seeks to implement Brexit.
And if Britain did go back into the EU, it would go back on exactly the same terms.
We never left yet.
Stay in the EU, stay in exactly the same terms, so freedom of movement, all those things that people expressed concern about in the referendum campaign, and one of the reasons they voted to leave, they'd be back with it.
There are two things about that, if you take freedom of movement. One, Britain has never used the administrative capacities that exist within the freedom of movement principle so that you can manage the flow of labour. I mean, Belgium, for example, if you haven't got a job within 3 months, you're not allowed to stay. And Britain has not implemented that. Secondly, I think that there is a feeling around the rest of Europe that there's a case for managing migration in a more sensible way, both from outside the European Union and within.
Finally, very quickly, are you tempted to go back and get involved? Maybe run again for office?
We helped 27 million people last year through the International Rescue Committee, and I've got 12,000 staff around the world. The message to them has got to be, I'm on the job.